Gents, welcome. Thanks for joining us, Matt, Aaron, and Stixie. Appreciate you guys jumping on tonight to have a chat. Pre-Olympics, finally we've made it to the front door of what can be only an amazing event coming up in only a couple of weeks' time for both you. Unfortunately, we couldn't get Jake tonight. I know he's a little busier than you two chaps, so thanks for spending some time with me.
Signing autographs, no doubt.
Yeah, clearly. Brad, I really want to appreciate also you jumping on tonight to give us some further insight into the event that's coming up for the individual. Maybe we can touch on the relay a little bit as well. But I might actually start with you, Brad, if you don't mind. Your name has obviously been synonymous for triathlon here in Australia and abroad. So what's keeping you up at night? What's keeping you busy?
Well, yeah, I retired, it was back in 2017, and I got into coaching, and then obviously spend still 6 months in Europe, 6 months in Australia with my wife Brad Kahlefeldt, who still competes at 70.3 and is doing a really good job. And then COVID hit, of course, like everyone, we were impacted big time. We ended up buying a 25-metre pool in Wagga, an indoor pool, and we started a swim school called Wagga Swim Hub, and we've been flat out with that. We've got over 1,000 kids every week coming through, and we've got school groups coming through now, which are almost booked out, and aquarobics and hydrotherapy and stuff like that, and also coaching as well, part-time. And so just flat out dealing with staff and all the other issues you have with running a business, and I really enjoy it. The ironic thing is, like, I was such a bad swimmer as well, especially when I was a junior, and I'm actually teaching children to swim now, but well, my staff are, some coaches, but that's what we're doing. We moved back to Wagga, we built a house, and had a second child, so we've actually had quite a busy year.
Oh, it's wonderful to hear. I'm so glad you're sort of staying around the sport. I know that swimming by itself is not triathlon, but the fact is you're hanging around. That's great to hear.
Absolutely, I love it.
I think Brad, you're actually probably the best person to teach the swimming. Most improved out of your career probably. And
yeah, well, I won't.
And I don't know. Like, it's sort of for swimmers that grew up swimming, it's kind of comes a little bit natural. I don't want to sound it's a little bit natural, so you don't think about it too much. So I'm guessing over your career you probably had to think about it quite a lot of how to get the best out of your swimming and your stroke. So you actually are probably better equipped to teach swimming than us.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because Clado said the same thing. Clayton Fattel, he just said, as we were training together, and Lane said, he's like, I just expect you jump in the water, and it's just a bit like you guys as well. You've got a nice stroke. I never had a nice stroke. I just absolutely flogged myself in Jindabyne. I swim 100 hundreds every week, and I swim in shoes, I swim in board shorts, I swim in band just to get strong. But my stroke was never good. It was an open water stroke. I used to just get in and just fight to try and stay in that front group, or the second group, and try and put yourself in the race. But these kids coming through are quite young as well. Like, we start them at 4 months up to around the 17 years. So it's a broad, I guess, range of kids coming through from the Riverina swimming with us. So Raker and I both love it. The kids are usually happy. The parents are happy most of the time. The kids learning to swim. It's a life skill, and we're very happy we opened the business, and it's going well.
It's great to hear. I'm going to hand it back to you two boys. Matt, Aaron, we've obviously got the youngest of the three and then the oldest of the three that are going across to Tokyo this way. So, Matt, I might start with you, if you don't mind. I'll ask both of you, actually, I'll probably ask the question to both of you at the start, actually. Given the changes, we had lockdown last year and then moving into 2021, how has it changed for both of you, or how's it underpinned that motivation to get across to Tokyo now, and has anything changed during that process?
Well, yeah, initially, like for me, I've been on the Gold Coast for the past 18 months to 2 years. So, initially when the call was made for the Olympics to be postponed or, potentially cancelled, it was pretty unmotivating for me, to be honest. It was like, this, rug's been pulled out underneath me, and, this lofty goal has just been taken away or pushed back further. So, for me, it was a time to kind of, do some different things, focus on my running, tick off some PBs, and not really think about triathlon too much. There was no real races going on, overseas and in the World Series. So, it was a nice opportunity, but then it also made me hungrier when things did start kicking back into gear. And we got a couple of domestic races here in Oz, but ultimately, eyes were set on overseas, and I made the call to stay at home and stay safe. And raced a few races and got on the team, which I was lucky to do, but thankful that I'm here now.
And for you, Aaron?
Yeah, similar to what Matt said. I think initially the hardest thing for me, and as Brad would probably attest to, that as you get a little bit older, your years, your best, I guess, coming towards the end, and also you're always battling your body. Matt, you'll find out one day that waking up and walking down the stairs in the morning isn't like it used to be, and I guess what I found really difficult early on in the piece was that for the first time in a long time, the first 4 months of the year, or the season, I guess we call the start of our season more like December time of 2019 into the March of 2020, everything had gone well. And I felt like I'd had the best pre-season that I'd had in a long time. And, you get excited to race, you feel like you're fit, and everything has gone well. So for that to have happened after what to me felt like the best prep I'd had in a while was probably the hardest thing to take. But then similar to Matt, I guess I lost a little bit of motivation, or whatever you may wish to call it. And often people said, how do you keep motivated throughout this period? And I think it's kind of important to say that you don't have to be motivated all the time, especially at that period. I think it's okay that if your motivation wavers a little bit. And so I did a little bit different stuff. I didn't follow a structured training program for most of last year, or for a good chunk of the winter, the Australian winter that was, and just sort of did what I wanted. Went for rides that I hadn't actually been before, that are maybe a bit longer than what we would do in normal Olympic distance style racing. So like, a couple of 100K rides that took me into areas of the Southern Highlands that I would never normally ride, and just did stuff that I kind of enjoyed a little bit more. And me and my partner, we bought a place in Wollongong, which we've been meaning to do for quite a few years, but never had the time to actually settle in one spot for too long enough to actually go through the process of buying. So I guess on the other side of that, and spent a lot of time in Australia and saw my family a lot more. So whilst initially it was obviously disappointing and unmotivating, I guess I tried to make the best of the situation that we're in.
I mean, congratulations to both of you. Obviously, having an opportunity to stay here a little bit more, Aaron, could only be more beneficial for you. I'm not saying you shouldn't be travelling, but staying close to family and friends from here obviously should be an advantage to you. I just want to shift for a moment, if you don't mind, to Tokyo itself. I mean, I understand, the weather is quite warm and will be quite warm by the time you guys get there. So I know both of you are tracking along pretty well from a heat acclimation perspective, but I just want to know, has there been discussion throughout the team or and yourselves individually how you feel that the weather's going to play a role for both of you?
I think one thing I took out of a recent camp that we had, when I say recent, it was before COVID, so quite a while ago now. There was kind of talk around the attitude towards the heat, and the wording that we put around it, and the team culture that we kind of addressed. And it was more as if we weren't kind of being stubborn and not recognizing that it was going to be a hot race, but it was more like, yeah, it's going to be hot, but do we need to talk about it? No. Do we, does this need to be an issue in our minds in terms of affecting our confidence? No. And attack that as a team and drive that culture forward. Confidence and self-belief is one of the most important things when you're racing. And I think to have that moving forward into definitely one of the toughest races we might face in terms of heat wise is pretty important. So, yeah.
Aaron, I know you were in Mexico earlier this year. Sorry, I'll just jump in there just to give the preamble here. I suppose you're in Mexico earlier this year, and I believe that was pretty warm also. Was that a strategic play or based purely on making sure the team was? Sorry, I probably know the answer. It was a bit more of a strategic play around team, and setting the team up for success to get those get a maximum amount of athletes in, or both.
Yeah, absolutely. There was no want to actually go to Mexico. I think I raced Leeds, realised that I'm right on the cusp of staying inside the top 30 to guarantee that we have 3 spots. Leeds was a week before Mexico, and we went, holy crap, I have to get on a plane and fly to Mexico tomorrow and race on Sunday to do the best I can to gain some points. In the end, I didn't need to, and the scenario worked out in Australia's way that we were able to get 3 spots. But yeah, I mean, I didn't go out of my way to go to Mexico to try and race in the heat. No, it was purely just to try and get some points, and it was literally came like the way that it turned out. I still sort of have to go, how did we pull that off? Like the amount of things to get the 3 spots, and it's kind of a complicated. We don't have enough time to go into it, but basically we needed 3 Australians inside the top 30. On one weekend we had a race in Mexico. We had Oceania Championships in Australia, which was to get that running. Like I think it got cancelled. Matt, you probably know more than me. You were in Australia, but I think it got cancelled 4 times. And we finally got it on the last weekend of the qualification window. We needed Luke Willian, I think probably needed to finish first or second to gain the right amount of points. We had Kenji Nina, who was a former Australian athlete, now racing for Japan in Leeds. He cut the swim buoy, which got him disqualified, which 24 hours after the race, which gave me an extra 10 points, which moved me in front of the American into 30th and the American out to 31st. I mean, the amount of things that had to fall into place for us to get the 3 spots, you couldn't even write it. You couldn't write that script. So I guess I've sort of diverged a little bit, but the answer to your question, I went to Mexico purely just to try and get that, to try and secure that 3rd spot for Australia.
Yeah. So very team focused. That's fantastic. Speaking of the team for a moment, I want to ask you around discussions around COVID protocol for the team. And how that's going to play out for you. Is there any concerns or issues that you see at this point in time?
No, I think I actually think the village is probably going to be a pretty safe place. The amount of testing that we need to do prior, testing every day, obviously the normal hygiene type stuff, masks and everything that we have to wear. To be honest, probably safer in the village than where I am in Spain and anyone else around the world. So, I think we're going to be pretty safe there.
Gotcha. Stixie, I'm just going to just flip over my pages here for a moment. Just give me a tick. Aaron, I was going to sort of take you down memory lane for a moment, if you don't mind. It might be a little bit embarrassing, but that's okay. I think you'll be all right with this one. If memory serves me correctly, at the age of 10, you would have witnessed the Sydney Olympics in 2000. And now looking forward, you're participating in your 2nd time around. How important, and you sort of alluded to this just before around potentially getting to the more twilight end of your short course career. How important is this last? I shouldn't say last. Let's not preempt anything here. But maybe your last Olympics. How important is it for you to line up this year?
I mean, yeah, of course it's important. I think it's been a long 5 years. I've had a lot of self-doubt in the last 5 years of whether I could make the team, be competitive again. I've struggled a little bit with a few injuries and whatnot, so it hasn't been the easiest 5 years, that's for sure. But I think when I got the call, I just felt really proud to be selected, and and to get the belief from the selectors that I was good enough to make the team. So yeah, I mean, I don't really know how else to say it other than, I feel really proud to be on my second Olympic team.
Matt, to you, just for a moment again, you're the youngest of the three out of the squad in the male side, and I just wanted to get your feelings on making the team and how that's where that ranks in terms of other outcomes that you've had. World Junior Champion in 2017, as well as obviously earlier this year, first place at Oceania. Obviously, they sort of pale into insignificance of Oceania to Olympics. I understand that, but in terms of for you, where does this rank for you, and how's it settled for you?
Well, the Olympics is kind of really the pinnacle of our sport. So to be able to be a part of history and especially in unprecedented games like Tokyo are going to be, it's a real honour. And I think that honour is still sinking in. It'll definitely get more real as we head into the village and as race day approaches. But when I got the call up, it was a little bit of a relief because, obviously the last 18 months has been quite stressful in whether the games are going to go ahead or not, or what decisions athletes make, are going to pose them in a good spot for selection. Relief, but then it really started to sink in when I talked to mum and dad and also to see the reactions of people around me in my corner and people who are there every day in my daily training environment, and to see them, filled with joy and pride for me and obviously Australia is was something that really stood out for me, and to see what it meant to them was quite emotional, and certainly will make these games, my debut games, very special.
I also wanted to speak to you, both of you. Obviously, Jake not being here might be a little difficult, but I suppose for the both of you, having such a strong presence already, 3 male, 3 female, we've got the maximum amount of spots for both male and female. I really wanted to sort of just talk to you about sort of the camaraderie that then comes about when you get into the mixed relay. Again, we're not talking about specifics of who's going to make it and who's not going to make it, but I just want to get the feeling of what it does for the team as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, well, to be the only country to qualify 6 athletes, 3 male, 3 female, is quite an incredible achievement. And raps go to Jazz and Aaron and Luke, who obviously did all they could to, and other athletes as well that put into place to qualify those spots. And it gives us a lot of strength moving forward. It gives us a lot of belief, knowing that we do have, whoever that team may compile of, a backup in a sense of, coming from the individual, how we're going to structure it and roles to play. So I think it definitely is a strength.
And I think Australia has been on the World Championship podium in the last 4 years in Hamburg, with a combination of any of those 6 athletes that are going to the games, and also some that aren't going to the games. So I think it goes to show that we're a strong team, a really strong team, and to have 6 athletes inside the village that we can choose from, and know that in the past all 6 of them have put performances together that landed Australia on the podium is a pretty good position to be in. And you touched on the camaraderie. Yeah, I genuinely think that there is good camaraderie between the Australian team at the moment. Obviously, the 6 that are there, all 6 that are in Tokyo want to be part of that team, undoubtedly. And there will be a little bit of disappointment for the 2 that miss out, for sure. But I think absolutely that those 4 that race and those 2 that don't get to race, everyone wants the same outcome, and that's to see Australia do well and to see Australia on top.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Brad, I just want to turn it over to you for just a moment. if you were playing the gentleman's role here and filling in for someone else who's not here tonight, where would you? I know you can't really speak on anyone else's behalf except for yourself. I understand that, but if you were heading over to Tokyo, what would be the things that would be front of mind for you for race day? And walk me through sort of how you'd be planning out what was happening.
Look, I think, after doing represent Australia at two Olympics, I think the biggest thing for me was I had to treat it like any other race, like a World Series race. I think my first one in Beijing, I just was thinking everything. I couldn't sleep that well. I was ready to go. I was quite nervous, but you overanalyze everything. And as soon as you overanalyze everything, you start doubting yourself a little bit because doubts come in your mind. You try and get rid of them and they come back. And so I would just try and just focus like it's another race and head over and still obviously be in the best possible shape. And these guys obviously are in really good shape, but treat it like any other race. You're going over there, you race in the heat. The heat suits the Aussies. We've got a great track record of racing well in the heat. This is a hot, humid race, and there's not too many locations in Europe that are hot, humid. Really, very little. Maybe right down the south of Spain or down near Greece or something, but there's nothing like that Asian heat, and we have that in our favour. So I think you have to have some confidence going up to Japan from Australia or coming across from Europe, and just treating it like another race. These boys have done plenty of racing. Very experienced on the World Championship circuit, and just get in there and tear it apart. I think that's the biggest thing you can do, and just have confidence in yourself of knowing you will do a good job. You've been there before, and everyone's behind you, even though there's no crowd out there. It's going to be tough and quite strange, I think, for Olympics, but there's so many people watching on TV, and that's the exciting thing as well. Like you're racing in front of no one, well, not too many people, watching spectator-wise, but everyone's on TV all around the world, and that's exciting in itself.
That was something I really wanted to actually ask both of you again, is the experience that you're looking for, given that there's going to be, corner the phrase, the bubble. I know that's very synonymous here in Australia, where we're obviously isolating athletes and people away from people who are carrying COVID-19. How do you see that experience play out? And then secondly, with the no crowds or lack thereof, some races obviously quite big. Com Games obviously on home soil last time round was quite big. Talk me through how you think that's going to play out for you this time round.
Oh, sorry, youngest first, Matt. You take it away.
Mate. Well, I can speak in terms for my approach to the Com Games. I think it was just, as Stixie said, definitely more about treating it like any other race. I was lucky enough, obviously, for it to be my hometown race, and for that to be a bit more relaxing in terms of the process of getting there and training, etc. But for me, it was a process of kind of taking everything in around me and just enjoying the experience for what it is, and then letting my racing do the talking when it came down to the, focusing in on the race, within an hour to go before the start gun. So this time around, it'll be, I reckon, a little bit more of a juggling act in terms of trying to moderate the amount of time spent inside your own head with everything going on. That we won't be able to go out and play table tennis in the common room or do anything like that, I'd imagine. But it's going to be an interesting one. But I think I'll definitely take the same approach as what Sixie said, and try and treat it like any other race. It's I actually, one of my training partners, Lorcan Redmond, he used a good analogy and said it's like you're walking a plank, but it's just 100 meters up in the air. So I think that's a good way to treat it.
So, sorry, I was getting Matt to go first because I was trying to find an email that I received before Rio Olympics, which is sort of touching on what Brad said earlier. It's from Craig Walton, who I'm sure everyone here would know who he is, but he said, if you haven't worked it out, Olympics are just a glorified World Series race. Everyone tries new things, trains harder than they have ever done before. They starve themselves because they think they need to be the skinniest person on the start line. They do extra miles in all disciplines, especially the run. You get to the briefing and everyone will look like Ethiopian greyhounds. Your athletes will look at them and they'll be extra intimidated by their competition on looks alone. So here's what the winner will do. He or she will stay composed. He or she will train as per usual and not change a thing in their normal winning routine. They'll eat normal and stay healthy and strong and reach the start line in good conditions. They'll work to utilize their strengths and chip away at their weaknesses. The coach will stay composed and not do anything abnormal or stupid, and the coach will reinforce to the athlete all of the above. If you do all of the above, you'll be in a much better position than 99% of the other athletes and coaches on the start line. Remember, it's just a glorified World Series race. It's actually easier due to the fact that you have 3 people from each country and only 60 on the start line, 65 now. Waldo's probably still living back in 2008. So don't get caught up in the Olympic bullshit. And so I think that was I got that in 2016 and I actually got that out again just a couple of months ago just to sort of reinforce what we already know. And obviously, if you don't know, Waldo was the coach of Emma Snowstill for Olympic gold in Beijing. Well, yeah, in Beijing. So he's been there and he's done it before. And I think he had some pretty important takeouts or some notes from that email that I've got. And I guess Brad basically summed it up in what he said as well.
You'll find that people treat it so differently, this Olympics, because when I went to my first one, like all the boys you'd see out warming up, yeah, boys, how you going? The Germans and the Spanish and stuff, and no one would say anything to each other. Everyone was just so focused and so nervous, I think, as well, and I was sort of a bit taken back, like, wow, no one's even saying hello now. Like, we're all waiting to go onto the pontoon and no one's talking to each other, which, every World Series we sort of joke around a little bit. I know everyone's quite serious, but we still joke around. So I found that quite different with the Olympics. That was the only race I've experienced, that in London, like that. So maybe be prepared for that, Matt, maybe.
Tell a few jokes, then.
Mate.
Tell a few jokes.
Crack a few jokes.
Sure. On the start line.
Are you the joking type on the pontoon, Matt?
No.
So I actually
neither.
Especially with that haircut, I would have thought you would be.
That should have been one of the discussions on what to stay off topic,
mullet.
and that should have been the haircut. But yeah, as I said before, a bad haircut's just 2 weeks away from a good haircut. So,
Aaron,
you've had a bad haircut for a long time.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah.
Good camaraderie in this team. Good camaraderie.
I'll go a pre-race job. Yep. Get one before we fly out on Friday.
Are you going to take any kind words from Matt on the style? I believe he's rocking a half decent haircut right now.
I kind of think sometimes I want to do something like that, but I'm 31 now. I don't know. It's kind of I've maybe gone past that. I've maybe gone past that a bit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think get a bit off the top. Oh, you think? Yeah, I don't know. No, I always say to my partner, no, I want to grow my hair. I'm gonna grow it really long, and it gets to about where it's at now, which is about as long as it ever gets. And I'm like, no, I can't deal with this anymore. I'm getting rid of it.
Mate, keep it those flying locks when you can, mate. You don't want to get to where I am at. I mean, it's on everyone's mind on this call. So, look, let's spend some time on your travel just for a second. So, Matt, I think you earlier on the call you said you were leaving on next Tuesday or Thursday?
Yeah, next Tuesday. So the boys will get a chance to warm up the ACOM for me.
Anything between now and Tuesday before you head out that's key for you to make sure you get done?
Yeah, there's a couple of processes around protocols with testing. We had to have one about a week ago, and then we'll have to have to within 72 and 48 hours of when we travel and when we depart. And obviously they all need to be negative. So, a couple of things around that, and then also self-isolation. So making sure I'm not out in the community and exposing myself to any potential risks. So, kind of just a few protocols around that, and obviously packing. I might be overseas for a fair while with Edmonton and Montreal, WTS and World Series coming up as well. So, obviously just packing.
Aaron, when do you head off?
Sunday. So Sunday, which will be Australian time, Monday morning, and we get there into Japan Monday evening. So basically, what are we? Well, we're under 2 weeks from the race now. Probably got another 5 days of solid training, I'd say, before it then starts to back off in the last couple of days before leaving. And then, so I've got a couple of key sessions now, but left before we go. But we're in the period now, especially where I am. I'm in Girona, so it's really hot, which is great for what we need. But we're obviously training quite a lot, and we're doing a lot of key sessions, and we're training in the heat. So managing all of that whilst on the back of probably a solid 4 or 5 week block, it's very much a day by day in terms of training. So I have to do all of the other stuff that Matt is talking about, but the actual training side of things, everything's changing day by day in terms of what we actually do in the training setup, and managing that is quite difficult, I think, for Joel. Basically a couple of times a day, I think he's assessing every day where we're at and what we're doing. So, like, for example, I think everyone woke up this morning and the program for today had completely changed just because of how close we are to the games and trying to find that right balance between getting what we need done before we go and not overdoing it, basically.
And so, without giving too much away, Matt, I sort of wanted to just hone in on you just for a moment. In terms of key sessions, what do they look like, and who are you training with up in Queensland at the moment? Oh, you're on mute.
There we go. I'm with my squad on the Gold Coast, headed by Dan Atkins. Training with a lot of good guys, and obviously Jazz as well, who made the team. So it's great for us both to be on the team and headed over. And credit to Dan as well. Getting 2 athletes on the team out of 6, it's pretty good. Basically just training away. We've got a couple of key heat chamber sessions coming up, and then also swimming in some hot water as well, in a controlled environment. So that'll all become part of the process leading in. I'm not going to give away too many sessions.
No, it's all good.
But
it's all Strava,
I'm working.
Yeah,
It's just
correct.
and the link is there. But working hard. Don't get me wrong.
And for you, Aaron?
So who am I training with? Sorry. My coach is Joel Filio, who coaches an international squad, and also Jake Bertels's in the team, part of the squad, and he actually has all of the males in our squad are going to the Olympics. So myself, Jake, Vincent Lewis, Mario Mola, Yala Gaines, and Martin Benreal. So they're obviously some of the best athletes in the world. So it's a good thing to be training with them, but it obviously is quite tough. And I think for Joel, the hardest thing is actually managing that and making sure that we all get the best out of each other without overdoing it, basically. And so in terms of, I know because people like to know what we're doing, I guess between now and when I leave on Sunday, I'll do a hard swim on Tuesday, a hard track run. For those that know it, it's the Michigan set. We have that planned for Tuesday. It's it's a set, I think, that the Michigan University people used to do, and Joel sort of taken that on board as probably like the last sort of run session that we do before we head away, or before a main competition. Thursday will be a hard bike, Friday hard swim, and then Saturday a prep run before we fly out on Sunday. So yeah, still a little bit of quality work to go. I guess what sort of changes now this week is the in between stuff. So the lesser volume, I guess. The aerobic days are a little bit less than they would normally be. But yes, like I said, still a little bit of work to go before we head off.
I was going to swing over to you again, Brad, and just get your view on some of the key sessions leading up to Beijing, if you can remember that far back.
2008.
Sorry, mate. I'm going to test your memory here. What were some of the things that you would consider some of the key sessions that you're leading in, if you can remember that far back?
During the peak of my career, I think I did the key run days were the Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. The key rides was Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, and the swims were, I think, the same as the ride days: Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and a recovery swim Saturday. But look, some running sessions, like Tuesday was track. We often do, like with Bill Davron or Chris Lang, we used to do sort of 400s, like 15 fours. We're sort of coming in on around sort of 64, 65, 66, around that on the 2 minutes. That was just sort of a staple. Also, sort of 6-1, 7-1 payers. With 90 seconds recovery, you try and, I mean, it depends where you are in the year and, how fit you are, but, and fartlek on Thursday was a good session. It was a little bit longer effort as well, so sort of up around the 3 to 5, 6 minute mark. And there's still non-stop running, so that was Thursday. Saturday, just recovery off the bike, and then Sunday long run, or semi-long run in the morning with double up in the afternoon, another fartlek session. So plenty of speed there in the run. Same as the swim. All swims are pretty tough because of non-swimmers, so I sort of push pretty hard in most sessions, trying to pick that swim up. Bike was Monday, long hilly ride, strength, lots of SBs, and then I think the Wednesdays was hard efforts, so anywhere from 5 minutes up to probably 20 to 15 minutes threshold. Saturday, pretty good style racing with other squad members and other guys in the Gold Coast or wherever you go. So combinations of everything. I think most people would do very similar training. Like I've trained with the Germans before, and I've got good mates who used to train with them. Their training was quite similar, very structured. We also could probably change things based on how they feel a little bit more. If you wake up a little bit tired, you might adjust. Instead of doing 15 fours, you might do 12. If you feel okay, you might do 16 or 17. Just minor adjustments through the week. But most of the guys train pretty similar, I think.
I'll probably just come back to both you, Matt and Aaron. Just wanted to talk to you finally, I suppose, it's in wrapping up. Let's not talk about you guys in performance, because we all know that you're going to do extremely well. But I wanted to ask you, who are the ones, if you were sort of someone peering into the sport for the first time and you really wanted to see and listen to some commentary or some remarks around others, so non-Australian athletes specifically, who are the ones they should be wary of or conscious of during race day?
Brad, I don't know how much you actually you still follow the World Series now, but so you can probably answer this from Beijing prior, maybe more than, or definitely more than I could. But I was out on a run actually with one of our training partners, Yelly Deans, a couple of weeks ago, and we kind of rattled off. I think we came to 14 names that you would go, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he actually won the games. And I think that's probably far more than any other Olympics that's been, certainly more than Rio and London. And then even then, we still had names where you go, you said the 14, then you go, oh, actually, I forgot about him. He could still also medal as well. So I to rattle off some names, and I'm for sure going to miss some. So if any of them are watching, I apologise. But so obviously you'll have Vincent Lewis. So I'm going to rattle off pretty much everyone on my of my training partners: Vincent Lewis, Mario Mola, Yella Gaines, Martin Van Riel. If we're not mentioning obviously Jake, but you said not Australians, then you'll have all the Norwegians, so Christian Blumenfeld, Gustav Eden, and Casper Storms. Even though he maybe hasn't shown great form the last year, he was obviously he has won a WTS and was second at the test event. Tyler Mislechuk, Alex Yee, Jonathan Brownlee, again probably hasn't shown form in the last couple of years, but you'd never write off a two-time Olympic. Morgan Pearson, Tyler Mislechuk, Javier Gomez, Fernando Alaza, potentially he goes well in the heat. I've lost count of how many I've said now, and I've probably missed some, but I think you get the gist that if any one of those medaled or won, you wouldn't go, he's a bit of a shot. Henry Schumann, another one. So you keep Hayden Wild, you keep going, the list just keeps going on. And I think, Brad, I don't know what it was like in Beijing or Athens and Sydney, but for me, I think that's probably the most open Olympics we've had so far.
Yeah, I agree, for sure.
Matty, some thoughts?
Well, he's basically named everyone on the start list, so I don't and Tyler twice. So,
I mentioned Tyler twice, so that's why. Yeah, that's why I got 14.
There must be a reason for that, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely going to be a very competitive race, and it can go any which way. The only thing I would say is that this race is probably going to be like no other, and there might be an upset. It can come down to the heat and come down to the conditions as well. So, and there's no real courses on the WTS circuit, like minus Gold Coast, which was back a few years ago, and obviously Mexico, but that really produced these kind of conditions. So, it's unprecedented for a number of reasons. So it'd be exciting to watch, no doubt. Exciting to race, no doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything, and just sorry, I should say now. Finally, anything specific around the course that you could you do and don't like, or that you've noticed that could be a pinch point or something that we should all be considering from a spectator's perspective?
There's not a lot of let up. I mean, I'm trying to think back to the 2019 games. I didn't have a great race myself. I ended up getting caught behind a crash and came off the bike, I don't know, a good minute or so down. But so I've probably tried to put it out of my memory. But there was just no period there where there was just a little bit of let up, lots of technical sections. I remember one part where you come off a technical section into a U-turn, down a hill, under a tunnel where you got a ton of speed. Like I remember spinning out my 5311. So I've opted for a bigger gear in this race, straight into a slide uphill into another U-turn. And that was a critical pinch point, where some people got spat out the back of the race. But other than that, it's just going to be a course where I just don't think there's very much let up at all the whole way through. And I don't know, you kind of watch back the race and you think, God, it doesn't look that hard, but during it, that was freaking hard. So I think it might be something like that on TV. It might be like, it doesn't look like it's that hard, but I just remember it being one of the toughest rides I've done in a long time.
I'm glad you said that, Aaron, because I agree.
Yeah,
I'm glad I'm not the only one. But yeah, also just from the get go, like the swim, you can't underestimate that warm water. We're going to be swimming in temperatures upwards of 30 degrees. So if that doesn't spike the heart rate leading into a 40K bike and a 10K run, I don't know what will, and it'll stay up there. So it'll definitely be on the river racing from the gun.
I think for the test event, it was like 30 point, maybe the water was maybe 30.9, I think. And that's, so because where the race is, it's right in the corner of Tokyo Bay, basically. So the water quality isn't great there. So they've put 3 sheets, barriers, I don't know, to section off where we actually swim. The problem with that is that warms up the water because you've obviously segregated a small little pond that we're swimming in that just doesn't have any flow to the ocean. So they're trying to counter that by putting pumps under the water to try and bring the cooler water that's deeper up from the bottom, but then also they're worried about then making the water quality quite bad. So one thing that we have to be prepared for at this Olympics is that, as with any other Olympics, they have what they call contingency days. So for whatever reason, if we wake up one day and they can't race, they have days within the Olympic calendar where they can move it to. Normally, it's not really a thing you have to really worry about, but for this game, for sure, there is a possibility that we wake up at 3:30 in the morning and they actually go, no, you know what, we're not, the race isn't on today. And as was with the women's race in the test event, they actually shortened the run, whereas for the Olympics, they'll use all of the contingency days to avoid having to do that before they then start having to change the swim or the run, etc. So unlike any other Olympics, I think there's a real possibility that you have to be prepared for that. As it was in 2019 for the females, if that was the Olympics, they would have said, no, you're not actually racing today, we're moving you to another day.
Great insight. Thanks, Aaron. Guys, we might wrap it up there if you don't mind. Thanks, everyone, for jumping on. Brad, Matt, Aaron, appreciate your time. Thank you. Good to see you all, and wish you, Matt and Aaron especially, all the success in a couple of weeks' time. Obviously, Brad and I will be watching from the sidelines. So all the best, safe travels, and we'll chat to you on the other side.
Good luck, boys. Rip in.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.